Awesome. Are we live, Candy?
We are indeed. Daniel, you're all set to go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you coming to our little feature presentation today. We'll give everybody maybe one more minute just to catch any remaining stragglers, and then we will go ahead and get started. So hang tight for me for just a sec, and we will get it rolling. All right, I think we are topping out here right at 100 folks. So we will go ahead and get cracking today. Thanks everybody for coming to hear about our Quick Start Guides launch. Excited to show you all what we have cooked up today, and hopefully open up kind of I would say a more collaborative relationship than maybe some folks have had with IMPLAN in the past. Before we get into the meat of today's presentation, just a couple of quick words on how we're gonna, try to interact. Feel free to ask questions. So this really is, intended to be interactive, and we are looking forward to hearing from everybody today. You can post questions at any time in the chat box within the webinar, or click the hand icon to raise your hand, and we will try to get to as many questions, that we can today while we're live. Candy will be replying live within the chat as well, so feel free to drop those in at any time, and we will keep paying attention. On to who you're getting talked to at today, or by today. We are Candy Klaus and Daniel Dewar. I am your senior product manager here at IMPLAN, which basically means that I handle most of our new feature additions, our overall user experience, and really in a more broad sense, how our platform delivers value for everybody. I've been here about 6 months, so this is my first webinar. I'm very excited. But I'm going to throw it over to our webinar veteran, Candy Klaus, VP of Customer Success and Ed Services, to give you a little bit more on her background.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another one of our presentations here. So glad you could all join us today. My name again, Dr. Candy Klaus. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success and Education Services here at IMPLAN, and happy to be a part of this with Daniel to show you what's next in IMPLAN.
Fantastic. Thank you, Candy. So real quick, brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So we have really kind of an overview of the Quick Start Guides themselves. We're going to be getting into the actual use cases that we'll be launching with. And then we're going to take a quick tour of that within the platform, with every, platform willing. And then we will talk about how everybody can get involved and how folks can try to get this enabled for their own accounts within IMPLAN. So hopping right on into it, what we are launching today, or getting ready to turn on for folks, I should say, we're calling Quick Start Guides. So what these will be is really a step-by-step, use case specific walkthrough for templatized analysis creation within IMPLAN. So this is going to live essentially under the Guides button within the Get Started section. And for those of you that may not have logged in for a little while, you'll see kind of what this looks like within the new dashboard layout that we have that was launched within the past couple of weeks. For folks that have used our project design guides, this is going to feel somewhat similar, but with a big caveat there, that these are usable live projects, essentially, that we've templatized for you, that are configurable and live within IMPLAN. So we can use these to generate real results. We can modify them to better suit other people's economic situations that they're trying to model, and really try to get them to be a little bit more hands-on and usable for folks. You're gonna be able to leverage your own data and customize the configuration to a point And really, once you're more than comfortable enough with them to start walking with them, you're really going to be able to use this to kind of be the jumping off point for impacts that you want to create that might be a little bit more involved. Projects originating from a guide will also get special reporting outputs, which I don't know that we'll be able to demo today for everybody, but we'll probably end up doing a quick brief on those once we get them released. But essentially, we're going to have a summary reporting function as well as a detailed reporting function that's going to generate almost like a slide deck style output, and then also a really almost like a text-based report output to help folks, kind of get some of the boilerplate stuff out of the way when they're reporting on outcomes. A little bit on the genesis of this. So, economic impact analysis can certainly be daunting at times. As somebody who trained on our platform within the past 6 months, I know having the helping hand of our ES team and our trainers really made all the difference for me. But not everybody who can benefit from the data that IMPLAN can provide will have a training team on call 24/7. And not everybody who needs to leverage IMPLAN is a PhD economist. So we started thinking about, how can we support our users who, may not have these resources close at hand all the time a little bit more holistically, which has really landed us here. And the idea is that we're going to be having a library of templates where we're going to be giving folks easier access to our knowledge base, really directly within the platform, and hopefully, contextually within the problem that they're trying to solve. We really were trying to address a couple of key things that we've heard while talking to some of our users and doing a fair amount of testing and research over the past quarter. Sort of that first bullet there can be summed up really under the heading of time. We wanted to have users, experience less back and forth when they're framing their project. So, I'm sure as many of you can attest, there can be a lot of bouncing around trying to pull together, documentation on, what's the right data point to use, what's the right way to configure a certain impact for a given economic scenario. And we're going to try to have IMPLAN do a little bit more heavy lifting in that for, again, within the context of specific use cases. Under that second bullet there, we really want to give folks more tools to really try to get over the initial hurdle of where should I be starting with this? What does reasonable look like, in terms of, an academically valid analysis. And lastly, we want to have IMPLAN's expertise be a little bit easier to lean on while configuring and reporting on your analysis. And I think really that's you'll see kind of how we intend for that to come through within the platform, but that's obviously going to show up a little bit more when we hop into our demo here in a little bit. What will the Quick Start guides cover off the bat? This is going to be the million-dollar question, and obviously something that we intend to grow over, I would say, the next couple of quarters, but probably faster than some of you might expect. Our first use case that we're covering within the IMPLAN guides library is construction and operations. And when I say construction and operations, we're really talking about a single-year construction event quantified, really by the total cost of that construction, followed by a single year modeling for the operations of the business that was constructed. And we're going to quantify that in the guide by total annual output for that business. And if that sounds a little bit rigid or constraining, it's somewhat because it is. We have some reporting and really a lot of the structure of the guide set up to fit that use case in particular. And kind of using that as a jumping off point, like I was talking about, for folks who ultimately are probably going to use this as a framework and something to build upon. But ultimately, our goal is to have a whole host of these that are going to eventually cover a wide swath of what users are trying to get out of IMPLAN and what they're trying to achieve. So, with that in mind, obviously we really want to try to ramp this up as quickly as possible. And our goal is to get books on the shelf of the library, if you will. We are really trying to open ourselves up for feedback, not only for folks that do opt to start interacting with our guides, but also folks that have perspective on what they'd like to see a guide on. If you have a use case that you'd love to see templatized in a format like this, we would love to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to product@implan.com. We'd love to have that conversation with you and hear more about what you're doing with the platform. And at this point, we're going to hop in basically into the demo. So I'm gonna exit out of the deck real quick, and we're gonna hop into what some of you may already have seen. And again, if you haven't engaged with the platform in the past couple of weeks, this will look a little new. But for folks that have, this is our new look dashboard, and the feature that we're talking about here lives right underneath Get Started. So we have a guides button here where we're really just going to be housing the majority of the library and content that we're going to be dealing with when we're talking about guides. The first thing that you see here is obviously that there's a lot of white space, but white space that we intend to fill up, and we have a listing here for construction and operations. And if I mouse over this, you get a quick blurb letting you know, hey, here's what this guide actually entails. And I think in future iterations, this is something we really want to grow and expand. And we'll probably start having a lot more real estate dedicated to stuff like unpacking the assumptions that you might want to entertain or validate when you're getting ready to use a guide, and really starting to think about is this really going to truly be the right solution for me to model my scenario. Really, the only other thing that we have to do here is pop this open, and then you are going to name your project here, which is pretty straightforward. And we're actually hopping between predetermined instances here. So, just for the sake of illustration, we'll pick C&O guide here, and we'll call that a day. All right, moving on to essentially where we would be dropped in once we start to manipulate our guide. And that's going to be the regions page. So for folks that have built within IMPLAN before, none of this is going to look drastically jarring. You are presented with the same region selection map that folks have been working with for quite some time. With the big differentiator that we now have a big open in-app guide button for folks. And this is, again, only really going to be present for someone that has this functionality enabled. And when I do that and click on that button, I get a nice handy pop-up reminding me that, hey, the way in which you can select your region is by clicking on the state or using the search bar to type in the name of my county, region, or MSA. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick Mecklenburg County because that's where I'm located. And I see that populate over here on the right-hand screen. My next step really in using this guide would then be to click Create Impact and go ahead and proceed to the impact configuration piece of really the guide itself. So I'm going to hop over to our next tab here, where we're going to start that whole process over again, now that we're actually working through our impacts. So again, I'm going to open this up with our big handy open in-app guide button, and we're going to start walking through the impact creation process. And the idea here is that, again, as this is a template for somebody who may not necessarily understand what the what reasonable looks like or what the foundation for impact configuration would be within their problem space, this might be something you use once and then copy. But the idea here is that we're able to step somebody all the way through the impact configuration process without them having to bounce around to external support sources or other maybe legacy resources within their organization. And it's all right here within the platform. So let's take a look. This is really letting us know that, hey, some of these templates have been pre-filled with examples. And so the goal and the hope here with these is that folks are going to start using their own data in them. And obviously the framework and kind of the assumptions that underpin how the guide works are still a little fixed. But within the sort of scope of your economic data, we can still get outcomes in an analysis report that looks and feels pretty close to what you'd like to go talk to your stakeholders with. So as we're working through this, we get another card here that talks about the events panel and the groups panel. So this is, again, just illustrating some real basic fundamentals for folks that might be getting lost a little bit, walking through the impact configuration process. And grounding them in the fact that this is where we're really defining our economic scenario, and here's where we're configuring the groups that we're going to apply that scenario to, especially the regions. As we continue to step through this, we start talking about specification codes. So anybody who's constructed an impact analysis within IMPLAN before knows that we're really looking for a NAICS code here, and within the problem space of construction and operations. Obviously, construction can be a bit of an outlier here. It's got some funky coding to it. Doesn't necessarily follow all the conventions of other industries. And we've gone ahead and selected, construction of new commercial structures, including farm structures, for the purpose of this template. And that's because that's a really nice, functional, broad catch-all NAICS code that really gets us pretty accurate results for a variety of construction activities. And if you are curious, considering that this might be something relatively new to you, curious about what went into that decision or how you might modify it in the future, we have all the relevant support.com documentation linked directly from the in-app support window here. So again, the idea is that we're trying to consolidate the journey where folks are having to look in many places to figure out, hey, where was that information I was looking for, and am I sure that's really relevant to the economic scenario that I'm trying to model? So as we keep working through this, we noticed that we have one down here for our operations event as well. And so we've pre-populated that to other snack food manufacturing. Imagine, for instance, that maybe we are we're building a chip factory or a beef jerky plant, for instance, something like that. Obviously, this is a portion of the guide that we would ideally really like somebody to customize when they're using this. So we want someone to come and take a look at this, reference the support articles to figure out what industry code really aligns with their economic scenario, and then start to really use this to kind of take their first crack at looking at what the reporting looks like for their specific data set. As we keep stepping through this, you notice that we have two other fields that we need to configure, output for both of these events. And within the construction space, obviously we have cost of construction. So we talk about what this value means within the context of a construction and operations project. And we talk about how the value has been pre-populated, but ultimately, again, this is something that we're really looking to have users come in and use with the data that they know, so that we can get the end reporting pretty close to their actual economic scenario. Same deal on the operational front. We talk about what that means within the context of a construction and operations project. And then we talk about the value that we've used to pre-populate this. So again, this is some place where we want to see folks come in, drop their own data in here, and be able to get to an impact outcome pretty quickly, and then start refining that as their experience grows within IMPLAN. Next up, we start talking about the groups. So we're really working through, the holistic impact creation process, so not just events. And we noticed that for the automated reporting that we have set up on the back end, that unfortunately we're not going to be able to demo today, the guide is asking us to change the name of this group to operations. So we'll go ahead and do that. But the gist here is that we're able to bucket some summarized reporting on the back end that ultimately is going to roll up for both of these groups. And we're doing that kind of through the lens of the years and years of expertise that we leverage within our educational services team to say that, hey, these are data points that within this problem space, people are really generally eager to get their hands on and pull up. But ultimately, we need to make sure that we construct the groups in a way that meshes with that. And that's where, again, these guides may feel a little bit rigid at first, but once we're able to kind of help folks see the end reporting value and what they're able to get, this becomes a really great jumping off point for folks as they sort of begin their journey in economic impact modeling. Continuing to work through this, we start to unpack dollar year. So we're starting to look at, A, what is this value, but B, why is it set to what it is? And we start to walk through that as well on the operations side. And it says here that we are interested in setting this year to 1 year beyond what we have for the construction group, really to indicate that operations is in the following year. Pretty straightforward there. Again, we have relevant support documentation linked here directly within the platform. So if we wanted to come in and talk about, well, I do have a slightly more intricate construction and operations configuration that I'd like to pursue, we can access that immediately right from the platform where we were working. And that might cover things like multiple years of construction or specific edge cases that crop up often that our educational services team and others have already documented within our knowledge base. But again, the convenience factor here of doing this right within within the guide is what we're shooting for. We are going to need to match the region for both of our groups. So ultimately, that's going to be Mecklenburg County again here for us. And that really is just because we are looking at a singular region. And again, for somebody who might be relatively new to either IO or IMPLAN, ultimately that might be something that they're not super familiar with. And so we're wanting to make sure that we cover all of our bases throughout the impact creation process, and really make this thing easier for folks to get off the ground quickly with. Moving forward, one of the UI elements that some folks often struggle with is actually adding events to groups. And so we're calling that out here within the guide as well, just to make sure that folks understand that you do have to apply an impact to a group so that we can make sure that it actually happens within the region that we're modeling. And I'm going to do that for both construction and operations here. At this point, the guides let me know, hey, you can go ahead and run this, and click run on that bad boy. So that kind of runs us through the first guide. You could imagine that with something like this, but covering a wide variety of other use cases, you can start to see how this forms the basis for somebody to get started quickly, not only within IMPLAN but also economic modeling in general, and starts to try to clear up a lot of the common questions that folks have, when you are configuring a blank, event space where you have fields, you're not really quite sure what you're doing with them, and you're not really quite sure if you're applying it to your problem space correctly. And our goal here is, again, just to try to get that distilled knowledge base that lives on support.com and in all of our training and managed services stuff, and try to make that more accessible here, right where people are working. And like I said, the reporting piece of this is unfortunately going to have to wait for another webinar today, but I will hop back into the guide for a couple quick house cleaning items before we start opening it up for questions. How do folks get access to a feature like this, and how do we get it turned on? So account holders can sign up for early access simply by reaching out to product@implan.com or your CSM. This is going to be something that that there's no additional charge for subscribers, and we will really be working pretty closely with folks that do opt in, especially as we start to try to chart where we're going to really add more depth to the library in terms of use case. So again, this is really intended to be, I would say, like a very collaborative exercise. We really want to stay close to y'all, the user, and make sure that we are listening to not only feedback from use, but also directional feedback where folks to see really where folks want to go with it. We are going to be turning this on November 9th for those that opt in. So if construction and operations is something near and dear to your heart, and really a use case that you get a lot of mileage out of, or if you're just curious about the platform at large and really this new guides library, don't hesitate to reach out, and you can expect to start being able to get your hands on it on or about the 9th. Our goal for the next quarter is to add probably 4 to 8 new use cases, in the next 2 quarters. And we're really going to be, keeping that timeline as advanced as we can. There's no real reason that we would want to bottleneck that or anything. So, as we get, use cases and sort of problem scenarios that we think really have the breadth to have wide applicability, we plan to roll those out as quickly as we can and really try to add some value to this guides library for everybody. Again, product@implan.com is your reach out point there, or your CSM to really get involved and start giving us feedback about where you want to see this going. At this point, we'd like to open it up for any questions. Candy, I haven't obviously been eyeballing the chat at all, but is there anything anybody would like to start talking about? Let's see. Do we have any hands up?
We did answer a few questions live. I don't see any hands up, but we do have a couple that have just popped in here that I haven't gotten to answer yet. So one is, could users submit their own guide or save their own template?
That's certainly something that we would want to have a chat about. If you are the question asker out there on the line, please shoot me an email at product@implan.com, because I'd love to chat with you more about that. it's not something that we have planned for initial launch, but definitely something that we would entertain.
Yeah, so fantastic. Paul, go ahead and reach out to product@implan.com and we'll get you connected with Daniel to continue that conversation. All right, from Ven, can you have impact analysis for existing products that is being created? Absolutely. So an existing product, I'm just going to go ahead and take this, Daniel.
Please.
That would fall under industry contribution analysis, which is just a different type of event that you would choose an IMPLAN. So different from construction operations, because in that case, we're looking at something that's already existing in our economy. We have tons of resources available on our support site, which is support.implan.com. And just type in contribution and you'll see it's super easy to set up. Just pick which industry you want and you can set it to 100% contribution in your region and hit run, and it's just as easy as that. All right, so another question that came in from Jay Anderson. I am new at IMPLAN economic impact modeling, but I know something about basic IO concepts. Can I get data or estimates on Michigan County level imports? Example, Ingham County imports with some longitudinal dimension. So we definitely have information on how much is coming in or out of each of our regions within IMPLAN, and that is all available to dig into when you are on your regions screen, which was that map that Daniel was showing us, or in our data library product. You can look at comings and goings of dollars in and out of your region by industry as well. Okay, Daniel, we got a bunch more pop up here.
Sweet.
Paul says, I could imagine an open source version of templates.
As could I, Paul. I'm excited to continue that conversation with you. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out and let's get something on the books.
All right, and then going back, yes, so an IMPLAN analysis for an existing industry, like you mentioned, oil refineries, things like that, that's absolutely something that we can do in IMPLAN. It's just, again, that industry contribution analysis event type, instead of what Daniel showed here was 2 industry output events. It's just a different event type. All right, question from Kim. Will this work well within the public domain for event and sports complex impact and development? Are there case studies existing? Sports complex impact and development. So the impact and development are going to be separate. So the construction obviously is going to fall under stadium construction, which is pretty straightforward. Modeling the economic impact of a sports venue, however, is going to be a little more complicated, or it can be more complicated, I should say, than just the basic operations. Again, on our support site, we have examples on how to do this. When we're talking about something like a major league sporting event, kind of complex, or maybe something at a college or university that's going to bring in a lot of visitors, we usually not only want to look at the impact of the operations, the people who work there day to day, but also of the visitors coming in and their additional spending. So again, a little more complex than this very basic construction and operations, but resources are available at support.implan.com.
And to tack onto that, Candy, I think we would love to hear from folks who have kind of a tangential or a one step beyond use case for stuff like this too, because especially as we continue to grow the library, obviously construction and operations is a very foundational entry level use case for something like that. But if there are layers that folks are adding or additional complications that we start to see lots and lots of folks finding value in, that's absolutely something that we would want to talk about, potentially building a guide or template for. So don't hesitate to reach out with those as well, because those are near and dear to us too.
All right. So from Carl, thanks for the link to the multi-year construction, which was in the chat if any of you missed it, but will there be one created for operations? So Carl, operations, again, it's super easy to set up. This is outside of this guide here, but if you wanted to look at operations that started in 2023 and what they'd look like in 2024, you could simply use the dollar year and change that to 2024, and IMPLAN will inflate all of that to the next dollar year for you. So it's, again, an easy tweak to make to this, but not officially part of the guide. All right. All right. This is a long question, so bear with me, everyone. Thank you for developing this new functionality in IMPLAN. I attended the training at your headquarters, but even I still feel lost at times when I'm framing my analyses. I've always thought that your user interface could use more direction and explanation, and this appears to be a step in the right direction. The data library and assistance from staff are helpful, but it always felt frustrated that I had to set up my analysis and leave the app to find answers. Okay, good. I'm glad this is helpful, hopefully for Sam and others, that you're able to see how we can quickly set something up using a guide like this. So that's fantastic. Next question, what about capital spends that are beyond just construction? Yeah, capital spending is always separate from construction, and that's going to depend on what capital item was purchased. So it might be some large piece of machinery, or it might be a fleet of cars, whatever the case may be. That's always going to be outside of construction. The construction is just going to give you that building. Construction is also going to exclude things like FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, as well as the cost of land. So that's all outside of the construction analysis piece, but can be added on if you know information about certain items that might be purchased. You know, maybe they're using a local wholesaler to buy furniture for an office building or something like that, perhaps. All right, can the guides be used to model impacts for regions that combine different entities? For example, congressional districts including multiple counties. Yes, so if you create a combined region of multiple districts, or you want to look at a congressional district, all you would have to do on that impact screen is go ahead and change the region to the region that you want to analyze. So it's simple as that. And can fiscal year be used instead of calendar year? We don't have a setting to change to fiscal year. We usually recommend just picking one of the years. The most recent data year is usually going to be the one that you want to stick with. So if we're analyzing something that happened right now in 2023, I'm going to want to use the most recent year in IMPLAN and just make the assumption that even though it was 6 months in 2023 and it'll be 6 months in 2024, using the most recent IMPLAN data is going to give you your best result on that. All right, Daniel, this one's for you. Perhaps I missed this already, but what will be the pricing structure for the guides?
These are included with any existing subscription. So this is not something that we're going to be charging anything additionally for. If you are an active IMPLAN subscriber and you are interested in using this feature, we want to give it to you.
Fantastic. And how would they get that?
And they would get that by emailing us at product@implan.com.
Fantastic.
And your CFM can also get us in touch as well for anybody who just has a close relationship there.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to one of your CSMs, maybe you work with Rada all the time or Colton all the time, feel free to reach out to them too, and they can put that request in as well. All right, another question from Carl. Can a scenario span 2 regions or counties? A project may be on the border of 2 counties to determine the direct, indirect benefits, etc. In order to use the guides, you'd have to combine those 2 counties into one mega county, right? So instead of having Mecklenburg and Cabarrus here in North Carolina as separate counties, on our region screen, I could create a combined Mecklenburg-Cabarrus region, and then I would simply run the operations and construction through that region. If we wanted to keep them separate, we could do that. Again, that's just a little more complicated than the guides allow, but it is definitely something doable within the application. Okay, from Laird. Plan to build a template for utility scale solar or wind developments, both capital expenditures and construction, but relatively few permanent employees. That's a great use case, Daniel, to put on the list. Yeah. And in general, some green transitions, maybe looking at some net effects when we are seeing some switches from fossil fuels to more renewable energy sources would be a good fit as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously we'll be pulling out all the suggestions that folks are delivering here live on the air. But again, if anything that you're super passionate about is, burning a hole inside you, please reach out, email us at product@implan.com.
All right. I see we have a few hands raised. Ven, did you have another question? Or did we answer everything? All right. Then is good. How about Dr. John? You? No? All right. Adam, did we answer your questions?
I think Ben might be busy, Candy.
I think so. Okay. Well, let me double check the question box again here. People saying that we're all good. So I think we might be out of questions unless someone wants to unmute themselves and ask
Hello?
at this point.
Hello?
Oh, Dr. John?
Yes, this is Dr. John. Can you hear me?
Hello. We sure can.
Yes. Yeah, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
I don't think you can hear us.
I can hear you. I'm hearing you.
You can? Great. What's your question?
Yes. I say I am from Nigeria, and I know that I used this implant some years ago when I asked for creation of data for Nigeria. But what I have seen then is that it's all US regions you are showing. How is this applicable in Nigeria? Are we still in the picture?
Off the top of my head, I do not know if Nigeria is one of our countries in the international product. Do you know offhand? I don't believe so. No, it is not. So we do not have any data at this point for Nigeria. So sorry about that. We do have
data
66 international countries at this point.
Yeah, some data were created for Nigeria a few years back when I ordered them for my PhD project. Although
yes, okay.
I have not been using them. Yeah, I've not been using them again, but I intend to go back and start using IMPLAN and selling the idea to my colleagues here because I now lecture in a university, and I mentioned IMPLAN to them. But they are wondering whether Nigeria is still captured in the IMPLAN scheme. So probably you can just look into your archives and see when Nigeria was captured and data was created for Nigeria. I paid for it at that time. I think I paid something like $2,000, although I have not used them after my PhD work. But I intend to go back to it and see how I can start using IMPLAN in Nigeria. So if there's any way you can help me out, then we can roll.
Absolutely. Email support@implan.com.
Yeah.
And we can get you connected with our product or our data team rather, and they could look at what data is currently available because we'd obviously want to use some newer data in there. We have a new international data specialist that joined the team, and this is one of the things that she is focusing on.
Okay, can you give me the email again?
Sure, it's support@implan.
Support.
Yep.
Yes, at implan.com. Is that?
You got it.
Okay, I'm going to send you a mail.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I love IMPLAN because it assisted me in my analysis because I did some analysis on projects and the port, being part of the port in the logistics of the area, the logistics of the ports, being part of the logistics in the area. And it helped me a lot when I did my PhD. But since then, I have not been using IMPLAN.
Hear that.
But I actually want to do. I created that. I sent some money at that time. I was asked to send money and the data, and it was created for Nigeria. And
Sure.
after a time, I was asked whether they could still sell, they could start selling the data for other people. But at that time, my work was still in the processing stage. So I said, no, let me see so that my work will not lose originality. But since then, actually, I have not been using the IMPLAN to do analysis, but I want to go into it and start using it. And my colleagues also will be interested.
Very cool. Yes, we will look into that. Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, well, hearing none, thank you, Daniel, for your presentation today, and thank you for all of the questions. I think I got to all of them, but if you didn't hear from us live or via chat, we will reach out to you after the webinar, and we appreciate all your suggestions for what will come next in these guides, and we will see you all next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks.